Welcome to Podcasting for Latina CEOs, the go-to podcast for passionpreneurs Latinas ready to launch and grow their online businesses and own their voice with podcasting. I'm Heidi de la Cruz, writer, two-time award-winning podcaster, and podcast launch coach on a mission to help you build a life of freedom, wealth, and impact by turning your ideas into income. If you're a Latina ready to break generational cycles and create your own table, this show is for you. Let's build our dreams juntas. Con amor, Coach Heidi. Welcome back to another episode of Podcasting for Latina CEOs. I am your host and your coach, Heidi de la Cruz. And today I was going to talk about how I balance it all. I actually wrote a Substack newsletter about this, but I'm going to switch gears and I'm going to talk about data that I found. So you remember a few weeks ago that I shared 8 fears that hold Latinas back, or like the common fears that hold Latinas back from starting their podcast, from starting their online business, right? And one of the fears that I talked about was like the accent or the not knowing of the language. And, I mentioned that like be yourself, talk Spanglish, start like talk Spanish, like talk whatever makes you feel comfortable because there is an audience for you. And data shows that people actually want more Spanish podcasts. Yeah, that's what I recently found. So not only is the demand for Latinas who hold podcasts and the demand for, there's demand for Latinas to hold podcasts because as you know, women of color make up less than 7% of the podcast industries, like the podcasts out there. So there is also a demand for Spanish-speaking podcasts. So let's go through the numbers and the data. So first of all, when I was doing the market research last year, found that almost over half of the Latino population are listening to podcasts, listening on YouTube, and now come to find out even more by Addison Research. So the same people who did the research on how many Latinos are listening to podcasts, they also last year did a survey and they found that 52%, so over half of the Latino population who are listening to podcasts already, said that they would increase their listening habits if there was more Spanish podcasts. So if there was more podcasts in Spanish, they would listen to more podcasts. So again, there's a gap with Latinas not hosting podcasts, and then there's the demand for Spanish podcasts. Bicultural Latino weekly podcast listeners, the 63% tune in weekly. This was a data or research done by iHeartMedia. And then less than 12% of all podcasts are Spanish-speaking podcasts, right? Less than 12%. That is from Latina Media Co. So we need more Latinas hosting podcasts. We need more people podcasting in Spanish. Like Latinos want to hear stories of other Latinos, people who, that's how you connect with others, right? By sharing your story, by sharing similar experiences, and also by seeing someone that looks like you doing what you want to do, right? And so it's like, oh, she's a Latina, she's sharing her story, she's sharing how she grew up with her parents. Like, I can relate to that too, And it's like, that's why I'm so passionate about doing this, sharing the data, sharing what I found, but also just like letting you guys know that we need your stories. We need the representation. We need to be out there just sharing our stories, So as you know, the cohort starts next week. I have only had one Latina sign up. I still have 2 spots available for whoever is ready to start a podcast. We're going to do the 6-week coaching, going through the voice method, which is the proven framework that I have created to help you launch your podcast with ease, straightforward, without the overwhelming. Plus, I will be there with you. The other, 2 ladies that sign up will be there with you when we're going to support each other. There's going to be a WhatsApp group to talk, ask questions, get feedback. And yeah, I'm really excited to help 3 Latinas start their podcast. So if you are ready to start, send me a message or send me an email, Heidi@HeidiDeLaCruz.com, and I will send you the information for signing up for the cohort on Tuesday, September 1st. We're going to do the welcome call and the mindset call to get you in the correct mindset, right mindset to visualize yourself as a podcaster and just be in that podcaster energy. And then we officially start September 2nd with the V of the voice method, which is your vision. We're going to dive deep into what are your goals for the podcast, who you're going to be talking to, what you're going to be talking about. And yeah, I'm really, really excited. As you know, earlier this week, well, it's been a week already since Hayden's passed. And then now, earlier this week, Dolly Parton passed. And it's just I know they're celebrities and I know that we don't know them personally, but they have impacted people's lives. And again, life is so short. Although Dolly Parton was 80, she lived a long, full life, but she impacted people so much with everything that she did. And, podcasting really is a great way to impact a lot of people. At the same time, you have a global stage here with podcasting. And also, you don't have to make it complicated. Oh, another thing. I am recording again from my car. My daughter is in dance. I am recording this episode while I'm waiting for her in the car in the dance. And I'm using my phone. I plugged in my mic to my phone and I'm just doing it. Yes, my laptop is here to look at my notes, but I'm doing it. And I'm trying to be the example of you don't have to overcomplicate things about your podcast. Literally start audio only, get your story out there, outline what you want to say, and just do it. Just do it. Just say it. We need your story. It doesn't have to be hard. It doesn't have to be complicated. Through the cohort, I am going to teach you how to edit. I am going to teach you all the techie things, the back end things, making sure that your podcast is set up correctly. Because one common misconception that a lot of people have is that they think that you host your podcast on Apple and on Spotify, but that's where people listen. You don't host it on there. And I have a whole episode on hosting sites and different things like that. So in the cohort, we're going to go through that in details, the different hosting sites, what they offer, and then get you signed up correctly on which one would work best for you and your goals in your podcast. Okay. Alrighty. So, short episode again today. I just wanted to share the data that shows there's a huge gap, in demand for Latinas to host podcasts, for all Spanish podcasts to be launched. People are needing it. They want it. They want to hear stories of people just like you, immigrants, Hispanics, people of color. They want to hear this type of stories. They want to see themselves represented in the media. So, and podcasting is such a low barrier to entry media. Last thing, I promise, last thing. Podcasting, I always say that podcasting is such a low barrier to entry medium. And it's true. There's no gatekeeping in podcasting. You start your platform, you start your show, you're the director, you say what you want to say, you are the one who chooses where the direction to go. There's no one else that you have to go through to get approval or, oh, what angle are you coming from or anything like that. You are the star of the show and you are the director of the show and you own the show. And that is one of the biggest things that you've seen in music, people fighting for their masters and their rights and things like that. It's you don't have that in podcasting. You are the owner of your show and you don't have to go through anybody. to get approval or anything. So there's no application to submit. There's no mainstream editor deciding whether your story is valuable enough. There's no network executive green lighting or red lighting or stopping. It's like, oh no, we have to wait. There's none of that when it comes to podcasting. Like, you are the director. You are the executive producer. You are the star of the show. You run this podcast how you want it to run. And that is why I feel like it's so powerful to have a podcast, to have the authority to be seen, to increase your visibility, to bring the opportunities that your podcast will bring you, and to build your table. And you get to invite who you want to that table and give them the space, to give them the time to share their story. Like, you get to choose what stories you highlight. So, all right, looking to start a podcast, sign up for the cohort. We start September 2nd. Send me an email, Heidi@HeidiDeLaCruz.com, and I will talk to you next week. Con mucho amor, Coach Heidi.
Thank you for listening to Mommy Podcast.